Today, I'm going to talk about the biggest wedding photography regrets brides wish that they could change. Stay tuned. Well, hello there to all my fabulous listeners. Today, I'm going to talk about the biggest regrets that brides wish they could have changed when it comes to wedding photography. But goodness, I can almost feel spring right around the corner. I am so tired of the cold. How about you guys? I am ready to move on with the sunshine, let it in, bring the brighter colors on. I am tired of being chilly. So today we are going to talk about the things that I feel as we are moving into spring, and wedding photography is among those things to be booked. I want to talk about what it is that you guys are going to have to look out for in order to make sure that you don't have those same regrets. And therefore, we are going to just touch base on a few of them, but the few that I feel are redundant and really need to be mentioned to make sure as you guys start looking at contracts, you start consulting with photographers, you start attending bridal shows. What is it that you should just keep in mind? Because bridal shows are packed with photographers. When I say packed, it's probably the single most booked vendor for bridal shows. And that is how bridal shows make a majority of their money, is through their photo and video vendors. So when you go through, do not be shocked to see a lot of those vendors. A lot of shows are supposed to cap how many vendors in each category, but unfortunately, those shows do need to be filled up. And that is one of the most in-demand particular vendors that fills up the show. So as you go out there, you're on the prowl and you are being seduced and kind of chatted with by every single one of them, lured in with their greatest deals. I want to make sure that I talk to you about some of the things that you need to pay attention to before that excitement hits, before you get in there. So you just know the little red flags to look for as you are in this very exciting planning process of your wedding. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, one of the all-time hallmark statements that is ever made is, if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. And let me tell you, that is the case with photography. Because we have been in this for 20 years now, I can tell you that all of us enter at a certain point in our careers where we need to go low so that we can get enough decent weddings under our belt in order to be able to get the weddings that we have always dreamed of photographing. And that only comes with not only practice, but reputation. There are so many people ever since COVID happened that have just leached into the market and have leapt bounds in growth compared to when we first started. And it took us a few years to establish trust and so forth. We're now in a market where people are scared. We are now in a situation where the world is scared about their jobs and, just finances and money. And so when it looks at all these expenses that keep building up in your wedding planning process, it is so easy to say to yourself, well, I'm not going to spend as much here, and here. Let me try to save as much as I can here. And then there's where the regrets lie. So we have seen and we have worked with, because we do have the luxury of only doing photography. So we don't dabble anymore in both, because we feel like we are amazing at photography and I don't want to manage a video team. And when you have photo and video combined together, there's a lead that has to manage the whole entire team. I just don't want to do it anymore. So we only offer photography, but because of that, we have seen the inside of a lot of situations that it is like so hard for us to swallow, because we can't say anything about it while we're there because it's too late, right? So one thing that we have seen is the effort to bring on these teams, and they just have been sent by a photography company, and it could be their first wedding and you're not even aware of that it's their first wedding, but you got a good deal. Sometimes we have been at weddings where there's been issues where the other shooters aren't showing up, but it's been like an hour into the program and they're not there. And then we've been asked, hey, could you set up a camera because we're going to miss this part because they're not here yet. And then I'm like, oh, who is, because I might not have had the name or I'm not familiar with. And then that's when I get the story, like on the wedding day, and we just hired this guy because, our parents wanted it. It wasn't a priority to us, but now the parents are livid and, you've got this little side thing going on. It's something you do not want to have to deal with on your wedding day. Your wedding day is supposed to be a stress-free day that you guys are able to just, once you get to that day, breathe and just let things happen because you put that effort in for so long that's the way that's supposed to happen. That's one of the mistakes, just going in for a cheaper vendor and not having really done your homework and understanding really how long have they been shooting. It's very easy for people in this industry to quickly say, oh, we've been doing this for 9 or 10 years. We know a very good team out in this area who was not doing it for almost 10 years. They were doing it for more like 2, and that first year was a learning curve for them. And yet they've plastered that they've been doing it for 10, and they just hire shooters on demand. And then they book, you're booking under this name for photo and video. And then they hire shooters and they dispatch them based on demand. So they might have a team, but they're not going to stop booking once their team's full, because once their team's full, they are then subcontracting those other vendors in. I mean, I could never imagine doing that. Understand that there's a need for it. Understand that we need more wedding photographers and videographers than there actually are, but that doesn't justify certain practices of doing business. I don't know. My gut doesn't allow me to rest when I hear about those cases or see them, or see girls who have become victim of a certain situation because they found a really good price and it was in their budget and they didn't see any red flags and other friends had used them, but that company had gotten so far in that they couldn't dig themselves out. It's just sad. We've seen a lot of people come and go in this industry, and that is often a big time regret, is finding a deal and then realizing that, their wedding's not happening for a year and that company's had a whole year to go under. So just make sure you do your homework. Make sure you do your research. Make sure not only are you looking at who shot your friend's wedding, but did they get their deliverables? Did they get them in a decent period of time? And overall, how was the experience, communication and all? Do your homework. Don't sign with anybody without that reputation. Reputations take way longer to establish than building a company, because our companies, we can get licenses within a day. Like, we're not waiting for any of that stuff, but a reputation, that's something you cannot fake. So make sure you guys look into that. Oh my word. Let me talk about the next one. The next one would be when we have, as photographers, we call them Uncle Bobs. But I want to say that in my market, I don't have a lot of clients that got Uncle Bobs. So we'll just say uncles. You do not want uncles shooting your wedding, and you don't want to allow a best friend to gift you the wedding. I'm going to tell you why, because we have been in situations where we have been asked by family members, cousins, very good friends to shoot their weddings. And it's one of those things that we want to help out. We want to be there. We want to give. But when you agree to do that and you do it, you show up and it's kind of like you're kind of saddened by the fact that you don't get to enjoy that event, or you shouldn't enjoy that event as a friend. Because if you are hanging out with your friends and doing things with your friends, you're not taking pictures. You're hanging out with everybody. So when your friends and family ask you, just come as a guest and take some pictures, it's never going to happen. Like, you either have to be a guest, or you have to be a friend, or you have to be their photographer. You cannot be everything to everyone. So remember, when you're looking at people and they're like, oh, we want to gift you. No, that's not the way this works. And I would tell you to err with caution, because I have been the photographer in that situation where I didn't get to enjoy a friend's wedding because, I wasn't there as a guest. I was there as their photographer. And so that is something that for me took away from like being able to really enjoy their day, because I knew I had to commit myself to photographing their day. Another thing that I feel is when you're investing in family members who want you to do things for their wedding, we also are not able to be respected the way we need to be respected, because they don't respect those boundaries. That as a professional photographer, we can say, hey guys, we're doing this in this order. Please stand in line. It's like they're expecting for family favors, and it just doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. So remember, before you entrust your images to someone who has the best of intentions on offering you your wedding free, it's a huge savings. I get it, but it is not in your best interest. That is definitely regret number 2 that I hear more than I'd like to admit to. The third of my 4 biggest regrets is going to be bad lighting, bad timing, and missed memory opportunities. They will often come back and they will tell us that their sisters, brothers, cousins, somebody had their wedding photographed by somebody, not a professional, but somebody who was on their cusp of becoming a professional and they just, they didn't have lighting, couldn't light the family formals properly, or all the pictures were dark, or the pictures were too bright, or they just simply didn't know how to keep within the time that was supposed to be kept within in order to get those pictures to stay on the timeline. So it just tore the timeline up and they didn't have time for their family pictures before the reception. So many of these instances have we heard. And I remember we had one photographer friend who came over from India and he was assisting us on one of our weddings. And he said, Amy, you guys don't set up like these big, big lights. And I said, why would we set up those big lights? And he's like, because in India, if we don't set up these big lights, like they think you're not working. And I said, well, if you know what you're doing, nobody should know that you're at this wedding. Like there are going to be times where we have to, sit there and be in charge of the family formals, for instance, or give our brides and grooms directions on posing and stuff like that. But when it comes to ceremonial stuff and reception and stuff like that, people should not know that we're there. We should not be in their faces taking photos. They should be able to feel that they're standing in front of a group of people, naturally speaking, and not have the paparazzi right in front of their faces. So when we set up our lighting, we make sure we set it up in inconspicuous places so that the distraction of that flash is not blinding people in the sense that they're blinking like that. We try to make sure that when we set it up, nobody's walking around to where they're going to trip on it or that it's going to block or be a distraction for other people. And we do hear about people who are starting out. They don't really know what to do with that equipment, but they have it like beside them and they're moving it with them as they're moving. And that is not conducive to being able to be unobtrusive in the wedding scene. So being able to understand that lighting, being able to kind of command those family formals to be executed in a way that is not only professional, but efficient enough that our bride and grooms are like, phew, that happened so fast. That was the one thing I was so nervous about, but it happened so fast. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate everything that you guys did. That's when I know at the end of family formals that I nailed it. Client's happy, we're done, got great, beautiful, executed family pictures. Everybody knew where to look, when to look, and we were done before they could be like, how many more do we have left? So that is an important factor in booking your photographer as well. Knowing that they are not a little meek or submissive or quiet is really important. I know that it's nice to have someone who wants to just kind of be a little timid and agree to give you everything you want, but we all know if we are married into or South Asian, we know South Asian families take a little bit of skill to execute family formals because they're so important to them. But at the same time, people don't always listen. So you do need a bit of a strong personality of a photographer to be able to say, hey guys, listen up. We're going to be doing these pictures. I'm going to call you guys in the order in which you've been told. And they're going to orchestrate that with you before the wedding day, right through the wedding day. So again, family photos, pictures revolving any type of lighting. South Asian weddings, especially if they are indoors, you cannot shoot those weddings without having taken care of lighting needs before the wedding day itself and making sure that you have those fill-in wedding lighting needs that are going to be as inconspicuous as possible. So that is my number 3 that I want you guys to really take into consideration, because when you book your wedding photographer, you have to know that you're like, I like that person. I think that they can do what we need them to do. And I love their pictures. That's the mentality that you should have when you're booking your wedding photographer. And here we have it, guys. We have number 4. And I left this one for last because it's a trigger, but it is not spending enough on wedding photography. I have clients who have spent almost 30 grand on wedding photography. And I've had a dad say to me, I wish we would have just spent a little bit more and got you for 3 more hours the day before. Or you have people who have been like, I should have known at the time that I was booking my wedding photographer that price was too good to be true, because my friends were all telling me, how much did you spend? And you told them and they were like, well, that was really cheap. And you then got to thinking, but it was too late because you felt like you already spent the money. You didn't want to waste the money, so you just kept going with it. Those are common mistakes that I've heard from, again, cousins, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles who have all approached us, during receptions as well as during consultations, and have just told us like, this was our experience. So we just want to know like what we're getting into before we're getting into it. We want to make sure we do our research. I'm one of those that at the end of my consultations, I've learned that clients usually know where they're going with this, whether or not they've already met with a few and they're going in one direction or the other. So I want to make sure that I make this as easy and quick of a decision as they can. And I'm a big person who loves to have closure. So I'll usually ask them like, so guys, what are you thinking? Where are you at in this process? Do you have a time frame in which you really want to finish and check this item off of your list? And what are the things that matter most to you throughout this process? Because I would really love to be your wedding photographer. And that's what I lead with if I really hit it off with a couple that I think we are the best fit for their wedding day. I don't necessarily go that route with everybody because I don't want everybody's wedding, but the ones that I feel we really would do well with, I'm eager. Like I want to book their wedding because I know that they don't know it yet, but we're going to be the best fit for them based on everything they stressed was a concern. And if you meet with photographers who understand that and know that and value that, they'll ask you for your business. It's really important that it means enough to them for them to ask you. And that's always been my take on it. So these are the four things that I just really think that you guys need to pay attention to as you go into the spring season, retaining your wedding photographers. We all understand that this is a time where we are all worried. We know that finances are a bit tighter than they've ever been before. And Srinu and I specifically want to be there to help you guys out and navigate the process of just booking your wedding photographer. So right now, the Rigettis are offering their last 2025 bookings a free wedding album. So if you guys are listening to my podcast or you guys are watching my YouTube or you happen to stumble across that ad itself, we are only taking 5 more bookings for 2025. And those 5 bookings are going to get a free wedding album. And these wedding albums are absolutely stunning. They're heirlooms that are meant to go generations to generations. So if you guys are watching this and you're still looking to book your wedding photographer, I encourage you guys to either drop me in the comments. You can send me a DM on Instagram at the Rigettis, or you can go to rigettis.com and just drop an inquiry in there. Just put in there free album. You just want to make sure that you put free album because then I'll send you a link to actually book through that free album category because I'm only doing 5. So I certainly wouldn't want to book more than 5 consultations for this promo because I can only give 5. So guys, if you're interested, reach out to me because I would love to be able to talk to you about your wedding planning needs and be able to see if we're the right fit for you and have you lock us in as your wedding photographers. I am so excited. As I said, I am ready for spring to be here. I am ready to finish off these wedding bookings. I am ready to start wedding season. Actually, for us is mid-March. And then I am ready for this warm weather. So guys, until then, stay warm, stay safe, and enjoy your wedding.